Shabbat shalom, everyone. I hope you're doing well. This week's Parsha is Vayishlach, and we're continuing with the story of Jacob. So last week we had the famous Jacob's ladder dream where Jacob is fleeing his brother Esau. He's stolen the bracha, the blessing from him, and he flees Esau and he goes to live with his father-in-law, to live with his soon-to-be father-in-law, but his uncle at that point, Lavan. He falls in love with Lavan's daughter, Rachel. He ends up having to marry Leah instead because Lavan switches them. And then Jacob has a lot of success. He has a lot of cattle and a lot of animals and a lot of wealth and riches. And after, 20 years of being in Haran, he decides that it's time to make up with Esau. So he sends a messenger to Esau. Esau, your brother Jacob would like to meet you. Please accept these gifts. And the messengers come back and say, oh, Esau is coming to meet you, and he has 400 people with him. And Jacob interprets this to mean he has 400 people and he's ready to fight. He's ready for war. And so Jacob does three things. He prepares for war, he prays, and then he sends gifts ahead. And so, what does this show us? That even a righteous man like Jacob doesn't just rely on prayer alone, doesn't just rely on gifts alone, doesn't just rely on preparation. He does all of those things together. And it can just remind us that in life, we should have a combination of things. We should both do our hishtadlut, our own effort, and also have bitachon, trust and faith in God. And it's not just one or the other. It's a combination of the two, or a combination of all of these things. And Jacob does exactly that. So we see a pattern with Jacob that he, as we spoke about last week, he, does an act of deception when he steals the blessing from his brother. He's then, an act of deception is done to him when the wife he wants to marry is swapped for her sister. And then later we'll get to the story is when Joseph, his favorite son, doesn't curry favor with his brothers, and Jacob's sons all tell Jacob that Joseph has been killed by a wild animal when in fact they sold him into slavery. So we have this pattern of deception with Jacob, but we also have this pattern of divine encounters happening when Jacob is alone or on his way to something. And so, we have the Jacob's ladder dream when Jacob is fleeing his brother. We have the events of this parsha, which is Jacob wrestling with the angel when he's on his way to meet Esau. And what does this tell us? Jacob is, we are Bnei Israel. We are the children of Israel, which of course we know Jacob is given the name Yisrael after wrestling with the angel. The angel says, "You are no longer Jacob. You are Yisrael because you valiantly struggled with both the divine and the human." And Jacob becomes Yisrael, and we are Bnei Israel. So that like. Why is Jacob our leader in that way? And there's a number of reasons, but the first one is we have this idea of Jacob always being on a journey on the way in his darkest moments. I mean, running away from his brother who surely wants to kill him in the first situation when he has the Jacob's ladder dream and he has this beautiful dream and he wakes up and says, surely God is in this place. Surely there is a plan. Surely there's a reason that I'm experiencing this torment. And then the same thing with this wrestling with the angel that, he's about to maybe have his entire family be murdered by his brother who hates him. He has no idea what's going to happen. And he has this wrestling match with this angel. And the outcome is that, yes, he does win, but he still has, he doesn't come out unscathed. His thigh socket, we know, was wrenched, and he, has to limp for the rest of his life because of this thing. And so we learn these messages from Jacob that when you are on your own, when you are in the scariest moments, when you think that all is lost, you aren't. And Jacob is the one who gets these beautiful interactions with God, this Jacob's ladder dream, and this wrestling with the angel, and being given a new name, and being given sort of the helm of being the leader of the Jewish people, or the father of the Jewish people, in a way that's different from Abraham and Yitzchak. And there's more that we could get into with that. But I like this idea of Jacob being this sort of flawed, scared, alone character. And I think that oftentimes the Jewish people can connect to that. And sometimes when we feel like things are so low and so bad and they can't possibly get better, we have this example of Yaakov, whose whole life was that. And I'm encouraged by that message. And then one more thing that I always love from this parsha is when Esav and Jacob do finally meet up, it goes well. Yaakov bows down 7 times in front of him. Esav embraces his brother. And Esav is like, why are you bringing me all these gifts? I have plenty. And the text is Yesh li Rav. I have like Rav is like a lot. Like I have a lot. You don't need to give me any of your gifts. Keep all of those gifts for yourself. And Jacob goes on and he says, no, I have plenty as well. But Jacob's I have plenty is Yesh li Hakol. I have everything. Esau says, I have a lot. And Jacob says, I have everything. And what does this mean? Or what do we take from this? Esau says, I have a lot, but I could use more, even though he refuses the gifts from Jacob. But what Jacob says is they might have the same amount of riches and jewels and whatever. Esau might have more than Jacob, who we don't really know. but Jacob says, I have everything. He understands. He has context. He knows what truly matters in this world, in a way that Esau doesn't. Esau saying, "Ah, I have plenty," versus Jacob saying, "I have everything." They're different phrasings, and I find that really meaningful. And it's just a reminder to be grateful for everything that we have, and to be like Jacob. And that is that. Those are the ideas this week. God willing, y'all have a restful Shabbat, and God willing, I'll see you all next week.